This is Gateway City Sports.
It's a trap!
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
This is the Team of Rivals podcast.
Everything you want to hear from the big sports to the big screen.
He's all by himself, fires into the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! No!
Vaughn into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
He doesn't like you. I don't like you either.
Time winding down. Michael for three. Yes! She is gone! I don't believe what I just saw.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy! You believe in miracles? Yes!
You may fire when ready.
What?
Good evening, Cubs and Cardinals fans. It's Thursday, May 27th, and this is the Team of Rivals podcast, proud members of the Gateway City Sports Network. You know, if you had told me at the beginning of the 2021 season that as first pitch started out in Arizona on May 27th, that the Cubs would be tied for first place in this NL Central Division, I would have called Alcoholics Anonymous and insisted that you attend a meeting. But here we are, May 27th. The Cubs are in a virtual tie for first. It'll be decided soon. As we start the show tonight, the Cards are up 3-0 with the bases loaded. So, you know, typical Cardinals devil magic, but we're used to that here on the north side of Chicago. You can follow us online at teamofrivalspodcast.com. We're on Instagram and Facebook at Team of Rivals Podcast, and we're on Twitter at Team of Rivals Pod. And for those of you who are watching us live, hit the like and subscribe buttons and be sure to ring that bell on YouTube so that you receive notifications anytime we post new content. Joining me, at least for now, we'll see what happens later in the show, but joining me tonight, my partner, co-founder of the podcast, and number 48 in the 2020 edition of the Top Cards on Twitter, Ron Nuttall. Ron, how you doing, buddy? How's your week been?
It's been fine. Week's been fine. It's been really busy.
Liar.
Yeah, I know. Well, from a baseball perspective, it's been a rough ride. Fortunately for me, I've got a pretty demanding day job right now, and it's kind of distracted me from some of that. Last weekend was rough, for sure. And this week wasn't great either. But thankfully, we found ourselves wandering around in the desert down in Arizona. So I think that could turn things around, at least for the next 3 days.
Your team's what, 3-7 in their last 10 games? I'm just going to enjoy it. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, they're bound to go 3-7 at some point, some stretch this year. But here's the disturbing thing, right? So, if you wanted to dig into numbers, and I actually can't believe I did this because I really wanted the question answered for myself, and so I've looked it up. And so they've got, let's say they are 27-22, right? So they're back 5 games above 500. But every team they've played this year that's been under the 500 mark, pretty good. 20-10 is their record against losing teams. And so that's what you're supposed to do against the losing teams. You're supposed to win all those series. You win 2 out of 3 minimum, right? So they're doing the minimum against the losing teams. Now, here it is. Teams with winning records, 7-12, completely the other way around, right? If you're doing the math, that's about a 368 winning percentage against teams with a over 500 record. They've been outscored with the run differentials a negative 35. Now, against those losing teams, the run differential is different. They're a plus 29. So they're just, they're doing what they need to do, barely, right, against the losing teams, but they have got to start competing better with teams that have winning records, or those teams that are going to be there at the end of the year. They're going to be there when the race gets really hot. They're going to be there in October. And if you're playing 333 ball against those guys, that might be a good batting average. That's a shit winning percentage, and we all know that. So right now, not looking great. Now, I will say this. The injuries have hit them on both fronts. It's hit them on the offense, their outfield defense, and their pitching. So they've taken some knocks. They can stay afloat. They could be okay by the time they start getting some guys back and healthy, but we'll see.
I'm just going to interrupt real quick. Did you hit the big green button?
Yep, it's red now. It's been red for a while.
Just making sure, because I just remembered. Yeah,
Oh,
you know,
good.
the same is true for the Cubs right now. A lot of injuries. In fact, there have been some. They've had to do some dancing in order to cover for some of the injuries that they've suffered, because they're now at the point where they pretty much either called up everybody on the 40-man that they want to, or, you know, if they were to pull somebody up who's not on the 40-man, they risk, you know, sending somebody down who might not make it through waivers. So they're doing quite a dance right now, just hoping to get healthy again. But, you know, it's been an exciting week and a half, and I never thought that I would be the guy to say this, especially given where I was just, less than a month ago.
Right.
The Cubs have looked really good, and that's been surprising. Now, granted, they've gotten to play the Pirates the last couple of days, but still, it's been fortuitous timing that the Cubs have gotten hot and the Cardinals have cooled off. And here we stand, both teams 5 games over 500. Not where I expected them to be right before Memorial Day.
No, I agree.
I can say that I had quite a moment on, what was it? It was on Monday night. So some friends called and said, "Hey, you want to come over for a late dinner?" And I was like, "Yeah, great." So I drove into the city, and my friend is a White Sox fan. So obviously he had the game on the big screen. I walk in the door and he says, Hey, have you been, are you aware of what's going on in the White Sox game? And I said, nope, not at all. I have better things to do when I'm driving the car. And he says, well, to this point, Lance Lynn has not allowed a hit to the Cardinals. And I said, oh, so you're telling me that Lance Lynn is throwing a no-hitter, which of course got me the baleful look. And you know, thanks a lot. The Cardinals immediately go ahead within 5 minutes of my walking in the door and having said that. So I feel good about breaking up the no-hitter, especially because it was a White Sox no-hitter. And then the White Sox come back and knock the Cardinals off, drawing the Cubs, you know, a half game closer by the end of the night. And I just felt, you know, I felt like I'd won both ends of the doubleheader, right? Because the White Sox fan wasn't able to completely celebrate because I screwed his no-hitter. And I knew that wherever you were pissed off because your team had blown the lead. So that was a complete night for me. So I took that one as a victory. I took a little victory lap on the way home. It was pretty amazing.
I'm sure you did, which is fine. I will say that, you know, it's really heavy. You have mixed feelings over watching somebody like Lance Lynn perform well, because the Cardinal fans were really kind of split with them allowing him to walk. He'd become a pretty reliable pitcher. He was relatively injury-free. If anything, you always value those guys that maybe aren't going to cost you a ton of money, but eat innings, and they eat them effectively. And Lance Lynn was that. Early on in his career, he would have the blow-up inning. He was well known for that. He might pitch 2 or 3 really good ones, but you knew it was coming. Speaking of blow-up inning, I didn't realize Martinez was on the bump tonight, and it's only the 2nd inning. So that is a ticking time bomb, any game. But he looked great. Granted, he's facing a couple AAA guys that the Cardinals are throwing out there right now in the outfield, but I mean, he looked really good. He was throwing well into the high 90s, all the way into the 7th inning. Yeah, he's a good pitcher. I mean, looking at him and looking at the injuries we have now, it's like you can't help but be like, God damn, that would be nice to have in the rotation right now. But it is, you know, it is what it is.
Did you ever think you would say that?
Yeah, I mean, I could see myself over the last few years. I mean, the Cardinals pitching has been much better over the last few years than what it looks currently. But yeah, I know it is mixed feelings. Now, I certainly didn't want him to shut them down and throw a complete no-hitter. That would suck. And especially, you know, with Tony in the other dugout now, that would have been a hard pill to swallow. And I'm sure, I don't know, Mike Schultz would have maybe shown his evil side and pulled out all the stops. Maybe you hear a trash can bumping around over there in the dugout. I mean, he would have tried to do something to prevent anything like that from happening. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the White Sox are a really good team. They've got pretty good pitching, and they've got a hell of an offense, even without a guy or two, right? So, I don't know, man. They look good. Hey, that's what tanking can produce. fire sale and tanking.
And some fortuitous signings, I mean, they did manage to land Yasmani Grandal, so that's off to them. On
Luis
that one.
Robert too. I mean, that was a bidding thing. I mean, it just, to their credit, they recognized what a window was, and then went a little farther than what other clubs would to bring a guy like him over too. So,
right,
you can't blame them, man. They're all playing within the rules. I know people get really upset about the whole tanking thing, but if you look up and down your organization and you see no way out of this except for like a 10-year development, long-term thing, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to sell off your most valuable pieces, which they did, and guys like Chris Sale and Quintana, the guys like that. I mean, they sold them off. They got what they could for him. In the case against the Cubs, I mean, they got a pretty good haul, right, for Quintana if Jimenez does come back. And he'll come back, but he's going to come back as the same player. You throw that with all the high draft picks from just having a losing record, your chances are probably increased that you fast track your way back into relevancy, into contention. So you don't want to see every team doing this every 3 or 4 years. That's what I, as a fan, don't want to see happen. I don't want this to be a long-term thing that clubs have to do, because really, I don't know, they got to do something where clubs aren't forced to do this. But
although, you think about it, right? This is not a new phenomenon. It may be a little bit more extreme.
It's more extreme.
But this isn't a new thing, right? I mean, because that's why the trade deadline catches our attention every year, because teams make a calculation that we're out of the race. Mm-hmm. So we might as well leverage what assets we do have into future value.
Well, Oakland's been doing this for 20 years because they've had.
Yeah. I mean, the here in Chicago, everybody knows about everybody who's our age, even 10 years younger, knows all about the white flag trade. Mm-hmm. Right. And that was one where the White Sox were within reach of the top of the division, but made the assessment that it wasn't going to be worth it. And so why not leverage the assets that they had? Yeah. So
yeah, sure. We've got a chance. It's like, wait, we got a chance for the division because this division sucks right now. We know we're not getting past those guys in the East. We know we're not getting past the guys in the West. So, yeah, sure, we can maybe scratch and claw our way into the playoffs this year, perhaps make a series interesting, or in 4 or 5 years, have a team built that competes heavily for 5 or 6 years after that. So if you're a long-term guy, that's probably not the most difficult choice to make. I know they say it is because they don't want to piss fans off, but those fans looking back now are probably glad they made those moves, and they did. They wouldn't be in the position they are right now.
That's right. And, it doesn't happen often, but sometimes, you're looking to clear a guy out. It may be because of attitude. It may be because of fit. It may be because he's blocking a young guy who you want to and have get more at bats, more time up, against major league pitching, or against major league hitters in the case of a pitcher. And all of a sudden it works out and the team actually catches fire. Right. So, so you may be trying to tank, but camaraderie, chemistry, somebody just not really actually being a good fit, it could quote unquote backfire against you. Although I think it's going to be interesting in the years ahead, because I don't know if you saw the rumor in the past week, but apparently the next CBA discussions have included the possibility of, for the first time in Major League history, draft picks being tradable, which would suddenly make the MLB draft very interesting. Yeah,
you want to make that event interesting, because right now it's out of all the sports, it's the most uninteresting. I'm sure it's not to diehards, right? I mean, but me, well, and I can't even say that. That's not fair. A lot of diehard baseball fans aren't into the draft as much as we are in the other sports. The other sports are, well, and to be fair, baseball in college is not what basketball is in college. It's not what football is in college. Those become regional names, regional household names, or national household names. College baseball players don't become national household names or even regional household names. So the popularity of the college sports does lend itself to those drafts and making them more popular. I get that. But baseball has obviously never gotten to that level collegiately in popularity. You don't see college World Series games on network TV. You find them on ESPN2 or something like that. So,
and it doesn't help baseball's case either that their draft happens during the baseball season, when baseball fans are not focused on the future. They're focused on the now. And also there are so many rounds of the baseball draft that, and they're necessary. Even more so it seems than the football draft. Football is it's 7 rounds, right? And that can be hard to keep up with on day 3. When you're going 20, 25 rounds deep, it's almost impossible to stay with it. So I get why it's not interesting or entertaining, because it's not happening in a window when you would be focused on the future. So, but it'll be interesting the first time that you hear that, the Cubs traded Yu Darvish and Victor Caratini rather than 4 A-ball players, right?
San Diego's
Instead,
first pick.
traded for 4 future first-round picks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that would be interesting. I personally, that's the first I've heard of that floated out there. I kind of like the idea on the surface. I haven't really given it much thought, but it is the other thing different. I think you spoke to it a bit in basketball for college and football for college. Those players are up with the team and they're spotlighted right away. The high picks, right? They're on the roster. They're if a quarterback's drafted in the first round, if he's not starting, everybody knows he's going to be the next year and he's going to be involved. And they're going to look for the incumbent to fuck up one time in hopes that the rookie gets a chance to get in there, or at least get some garbage minutes or whatever. So yeah, there's all kinds of reasons to look at them and go, yeah, these drafts are more exciting than baseball, but if they start dealing picks, man, that would throw a nice little, I don't know, that would put some bling on the baseball draft for sure.
It would. And then you start seeing draft picks getting packaged, so then the speculation becomes, hey, the Cubs have 4 picks in the top 100. Are they going to stick with all of them? And are they going to go with depth, or are they going to package those and try to move up into the number 1 spot because there is a consensus can't miss pitcher at the top of the draft?
Well, and I love the direction at the deadline could possibly take, right? If you're, that, look, all we need is a hitter. We don't have one to deal. We don't have anything in our system that this team needs. We're interested in that guy. That team's rebuilding. Maybe we throw several draft picks their way, make their next draft a hellacious draft. And all of a sudden now you're talking about deadline deals that don't actually involve major leaguers. They involve lottery tickets, which would kind of be interesting.
Yep, I agree. And the possibility that the thought is just going to completely exit my head and leave me speechless. So, hey man, why don't we talk about this past weekend? I'm sure you've been looking forward to this all week, of Elliott and I gloating. And of course, Elliott, he let us know, but are we really surprised? Elliott's late for the start of the show.
None of us are. Yeah, this is not a, but you know what, before we get to that, Pete, if I can just delay here for a second, I do want to
talk about insurance.
No,
because I tell you, I just renewed my insurance, and I'm wondering if I got a good deal on it. You know anybody who might be able to help me out?
I do, and they have 2 locations in both Missouri, in Festus and Arnold, and that can serve you, even a guy that living up in Chicago area. They offer home, auto. I know you live right on the lake, so they offer boat. I know you've been interested in that motorcycle now that you're kind of a free guy. The business, life insurance, investments, anything you want, Pete. They can customize an approach unique to your situation, make you, your family, and assets. Make sure they're all properly protected. They offer great rates and savings. Give them a call today at 636-764-6294 to do an insurance review or just talk sports. And if you don't have time to do that, you can email Sean at SeanWiley@allstate.com. Other thing I didn't mention about the draft, think about the stress level that's going to produce. Picks instead of players. You know what? The other thing that's very stressful, buying a car. It's not. It's not fun, but it is. But it's stressful. But it doesn't have to be, because 5th Street Motors, located in Pacific, Missouri, they can help you find the vehicle you need, no matter what brand. 5th Street Motors believes in giving you the best price on a pre-owned vehicle that will fit your budget. Give Brandon or Don a call today at 573-259-1306 and tell them Gateway City Sports sent you.
Ron, it sounds like there's a Team Arrivals package coming up someday soon, where you go to 5th Street, you pick up your car, and then you swing over by Sean Wiley, beg your pardon, Sean, and you get it insured. The TOR package, right? They'll both knock 15% off the sticker price.
Maybe.
I think we get to make that happen.
I think throw a little kicker our way. We have to talk to those guys.
Yeah, we should.
You know what? Just slap a Team Arrivals bumper sticker on their car. make it one of those really, really high adhesive, high energy adhesives where it's like impossible to get off. That's all we ask.
The kind that when you finally do scrape it off, it still leaves the outline.
It eats into the paint.
Window. It does. Hey, have you noticed that on your screen somehow the green screen is bleeding over my background, and so when I go like this,
oh no, that's
right
really
behind you.
I didn't notice that. We can fix anything here, Pete.
Let me see. No. I want to move it back. I want to start poking you in the back of the head. There we go.
I'm going to take your joy away here in a second. There we go. We fixed that.
I'm just trying to help you out, Ron, by avoiding the topic that I know that you don't want to talk about, and that's the fact that Elliott. Well, actually, all four of us were right. Cubs took 2 out of 3. How much did that hurt?
Who did I predict that?
I thought you did.
I have to go back and listen to the tape that I lost.
Well, that's the funny thing. I was able to pull it down. I've just been too busy this week to edit it together.
I know. I have to.
So our audio listeners are going to get a 2-for-1 this weekend. They'll get last week's show and this week's, and they'll be able to go right back and compare. They'll be able to listen to it and say, no. An hour ago, Ron, you were an idiot. You said that the Cardinals would win the series.
It's funny because our colleague there on Gateway City Sports, Mike Stevenson, did a 2-for-3, like minutes before it was announced that Albert Pujols signed with the Dodgers, and on his show that morning, he declared, like I could almost see a finger wagging, declared that there's no way they weren't going to sign Albert, and by the time he released it, there it is. The news is up. So I give him some shit over text message. I'm like, oh, that's great. I actually spit a little bit of coffee out. I was on the back patio. I'm like, that's great. Yeah, it's fine. I can look like an ass at times, but so the first game, I actually didn't catch it live. I had to go back and watch and painfully watch the condensed version because it just wasn't here on Friday night. I had to go watch the condensed version just to see what the hell happened. And they had a control problem, and they've had a control problem ever since. I mean, really their control problem started in San Diego. Their bullpen mainly. It's just, you could take a souvenir bat up there and just not swing, and you're going to get on base. And I don't know what's going. The wildness in the bullpen, and even in some cases the starters, because KK got wild there one game too. Now all of a sudden, the defense, like what the hell is going on with defense? And in the White Sox series, it was atrocious. I mean, it really was. It felt like a unprepared and very unfocused team that got down by a few runs, knowing that they had lost, several of their last 10 games, and were just trying to be perfect. And Nolan had a couple errors, I think, in the last series. A couple guys did, but the walks are the thing that frustrates you when you sit there and watch them. So I don't know what to say, man. It's just a lot of facets of their game over the last 3 or 4 series just haven't been working. And it's looked, in some games, it's looked really bad because it's been all of them at the same time. And that certainly was the case with Chicago on the opening game of the series. That's not the way you want to open it up against your rivals. You don't want to lose 12-3, but you did. The next night too, Pete, the Cardinals scored 6 runs in the entire series. Okay. Like if I ask you going into any 3-game set, your team's going to produce 6 runs. This feeling good. You're going to say we're probably getting swept, or we score 5 in the first game and get shut out and maybe scratch 1 in the last game or something. So you're not going to win many games averaging 2 runs a game. So really at this point, I know everybody wants to hang in on the pitching, and that's what they'll point to as being the most frustrating thing to watch. For me, the most frustrating thing to watch is an offense that just can't produce anything. They can't get anything going. The innings are really fast. It's like watching a hockey game, Pete. You've watched hockey plenty, and it's like seeing the puck on the wrong side of the ice almost the whole damn game. And that's what it's like when you're having these quick 1, 2, 3 innings. It's just like shit. The pitcher can't catch their breath. The defense gets fatigued at the end of the game. It's just all kinds of things not going right. And I think in a 162 game schedule, which they haven't played now since 2019, in a schedule this long, you're bound to have a stretch where your team's not playing good. But with the injuries on top of that, it feels a little bit worse.
Yeah. And I think that you're right. It's a little early for it now, but still, I think that we're going to see them more than physical fatigue. I think we're going to see mental fatigue.
Yeah.
Because the guys, you're right, they're having to play 162 games. And while they're limiting the innings that the pitchers have to take, I don't imagine that there's going to be a whole lot of attention paid to position players. And I think that toward the end of the year, you're probably going to see a lot more mental errors than we're typically accustomed to seeing. I mean, come on.
I would agree.
How often do you see a game where 3 Gold Glovers misplay balls badly, right? And only 2 of them were charged, right? With errors, Rizzo and Arenado. But still, I think it was Molina had a pass ball or something. And it's like, when do you see that happen in a game?
You don't.
Right? It just doesn't.
Yeah, you don't. And I think right now is still what he's, he was on the IL there for, a 10-day stint, right? But still what he's doing this year when he's ready to go is still pretty amazing at his age. But yes, I think it's actually how they're replaying the Cubs-Pirates play from today on the Cardinals broadcast. We'll talk about that.
We get into that in a little bit.
We'll talk about that here in a bit. But to me, it's pretty plain to see that, Molina does need rest, unlike he's ever had in his career. Like he does. And Kisner's filled in nicely when he has played. Regardless of what the record is, it doesn't, maybe it has a little bit to do with the catcher, but I don't put a whole ton of stock into, hey, look at the record with this catcher or that catcher. Catchers aren't pitching. And with those Cardinals pitchers have been walking guys left and right. It doesn't matter who's behind the plate. But Kisner's done a nice job filling in. He's swung the bat relatively well, but he's played good defense. I mean, I think that the way he's played, will probably get Yachty a day or 2 off more per month than what you typically see. And I think he needs it. I think it keeps him sharper and it helps him. But the player that's emerged that's kind of surprised us all has been Edwindo Sosa, who's filled in for Paul DeJong since he's been out. He's the only guy that hit consistently throughout the Cubs series, throughout the White Sox series.
We got another one now.
Yeah, and well, but this could be one of those Cardinal rookies. He's not a highly touted guy, like a surefire major leaguer. He started out as a bench guy to start the season, so he's been with the club all year. But nobody had projected him as a starter. I'm not even sure he's a minor leaguer. Anybody projected him as a starter. So this is one of those things like, he's coming up. He's hot right now. As a guy's injured, he's taking advantage of his time and his opportunity. But when Paul DeJong's back, we've seen enough of Mike Schilt now. He's going to go with that veteran guy. He's going to go with this guy he trusts and knows, which is a bummer. I mean, you'd like to think that these guys ride the hot hand, but Paul DeJong's on an extension. We know how that works.
Yep. Hey, speaking of, you had mentioned pitching. Is Miles Mikolas done? I mean, right forearm tightness, that's usually the first signal towards Tommy John surgery. And then I think I read that he went and saw James Andrews, which is the second signal for Tommy John surgery. Does he come back or is he just done? Did Mo get fleeced again on one good year?
It's sure looking like it. It's sure feeling like it. He just came off of a very long stint on the IL, right? He looked good in his tune-ups and his rehab starts, but it sure feels like this is probably we could very well have seen the last time he's pitched in a Cardinals uniform. He was a nice pickup when they got him, and I don't think anybody we can all Mo got fleeced because he missed all of last year, and he did pitch the year before, and he was okay. I don't think anybody disagrees or blames Mo for extending him even after his second year with them, where it wasn't as great as his first. I don't think anybody. It wasn't a huge amount of dollars, and it was one of those things where if you got a guy who can stay healthy and eat innings, he doesn't have to be a 1 or 2 guy. He can be a 3, 4, 5, and it's worth the money. So I don't think Mo's going to catch too much shit for a guy just getting hurt.
Yep.
The one he's going to catch shit for is guys like Matt Carpenter. Or it's guys like Brett Cecil. You signed him as a free agent. He sucked, and he magically found himself on the IL all the time. And I think they just wanted to keep him off the roster because he couldn't do it anymore. Whatever was happening with him, he couldn't pitch anymore. He wasn't a serviceable major leaguer, and paying him quite a bit of money for a middle reliever. So I don't think he'll catch shit for Mikolas. I think he'll get it. And deservedly so. He probably gets a pass on that one because you can't predict injury. Miles Mikolas didn't have an injury history. So,
boy, I tell you, that's one where the Cubs dodged a bullet, because I remember when Mikolas was coming over from Japan, and I was pretty excited about him from everything that I'd read.
You would have enjoyed him that first year, though.
I can't believe it. The analytics really showed that he had unlocked something when he was overseas.
Yeah.
Watching him just deal that first year really hurt, because the reports were that the Cubs were in on him pretty hard, and were unable to land him.
Well, one of the inroads.
So that first year was
one of the inside tracks.
First year was tough to watch.
Well, one of the inroads the Cardinals had, where he lives in Jupiter, Florida, and that's where their spring training is. That's one of the advantages I think they had going into it. Look, just because you have a spring training complex in a guy's hometown doesn't necessarily lock you up as the winning bidder, but that definitely didn't hurt their chances.
Well, yeah, I mean, we see it all the time, right? It was a surprise that the Cubs were one of the finalists for Shohei Ohtani, because everybody assumed he would end up on the West Coast because he's that much closer to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
It weighs. I'm sure it weighs with every major league player, unless they end up falling in love with a city. Ultimately, they want to be close to where they live, and
or what they're used to, or something that resembles where they lived.
Right.
And so, I rarely blame players if that's where they're coming from for it. But obviously, they're the ones that are going to go to the highest dollar no matter where it is. And I would have to think that guys are from, somewhere far down south, even as far as Latin America or a coastal city. Anybody signing with Seattle, when Seattle just so happens to be the highest bidder, they're going after the dollars. You're not going there because you want to make a career. You want to make yourself a legend. You want to somehow eclipse Ken Griffey Jr. in Seattle or Ichiro. Good luck, man, because you're not going there because you want to be a Mariner. You're going there because that paycheck's going to be rather large.
Yeah, think about that. Boy, you mentioned that, and this is completely taking us off on a tangent, but are there much tougher acts to follow if you want to become a legend than to go to Seattle and try to become a Seattle legend, when you have to follow Ichiro and Ken Griffey Jr., like two of the most likable baseball players in the last 3-4 decades? I mean,
King Felix
really tough.
King Felix couldn't even do it when he was on. He was on the top of the mountain as far as pitchers go there for a few years, and there's no way he was going to be a bigger name than those two guys. And you'd argue that Ichiro even takes a backseat to Ken Griffey, even though he didn't spend his whole career there. That was the kid. That was their guy. So Ichiro didn't hit a home run with his dad on the roster, or even in the starting lineup on the same game. So that's a tough act to follow. I mean, you're not going to create the kind of magic he did. And it's amazing what he created there, not only getting the playoffs, I think, one time, and never winning a ring. It's a shame. It's a shame when you think of guys like that didn't get that. At least Tony Gwynn made it to a World Series. But you think about it, Pete, you look back on his career, how long it was. We never saw Ken Griffey Jr. in a World Series game. That sucks.
Which is a shame.
Yeah,
it does. It does. And then you compare it to particularly basketball, right? Where there's so much free agent movement and there's so much fluidity.
And they collaborate on where they're going to go together, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's a surprise if a superstar doesn't make it to the finals at some point in his career. It's not uncommon in baseball for you to have a guy who ends up being a first ballot Hall of Fame. Well, not necessarily a first ballot Hall of Famer, but a Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not all that uncommon for them not to make it to the World Series. It's just a testament to just how difficult it is to get to the World Series.
Yeah, and then to get a ring's even tougher, right? Because you've got players like I just mentioned him, Tony Gwynn, who made it to one, got swept by a Yankees team nobody was beating in 1998. And I don't know that he ever made it back to. No, he didn't. That was his only appearance. You got guys like Larry Walker, who finally made it with the Cardinals in 2004 and ran into the bloody sock mafia there in Boston, and nobody was going to beat them. The momentum they had going into the World Series, I don't care who you threw out there, they were just destined to win that. And Ron,
I can't believe that you're making me do this again, but I have to correct you once again. Tony Gwynn was on the 1984 Padres. So he made it to 2 World Series.
Okay, that was against Detroit. Okay, you're right.
Correct.
I was thinking kind of post 98, so I don't think they made it back. But I think they made it to a couple division series and didn't get past. Yeah. You're right. Who would remember 84 except you? Because the Cubs won the East that year.
Well, yeah, and because they blew their first legitimate shot to make it to the World Series in decades.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
it was the good old
thanks
days.
for
man.
making me relive that one.
No problem. Hey, you had Luis Salazar as an exclamation point to that decade, though. You know, I mean, he's on the '89 club.
Hey, man, you alluded to it before, and I don't know. You probably can't share video, can you? Or you're not prepared to. Anyway, but I've got the audio all queued up and ready. So let me know if this isn't coming through. But one of the wildest plays I've seen in I don't know how long today. And for those of you who missed it, all you got to do is just turn on the TV. There's no way you're going to miss this in any of the highlight packages. Javy Baez drove in a run on one of the most unbelievable plays I think that you may ever see in baseball. So let me pull it up here and we'll go. Come on now. Let's play. Of course. Right. Sure. When I've got it queued up, then it doesn't want to go. Love it.
Yeah, perfect. We'll wait.
Damn.
Okay. Well, you know what? I think if you give me a second, maybe I can pull it up. So I'll give it the old college effort here in a second. But I guarantee you they probably have it on MLB.com on the Cubs page, right? Can't believe I'm going to this on my phone.
They've got it everywhere.
Cubs steal run. Oh yeah, here it is. I will hook up here in a second. So just give me a minute and we can. Yeah, I don't know if I can show the video. I'm kind of nervous. I'd be nervous doing that anyway.
Yeah, I know you probably bring down the whole internet. So for those of you who haven't seen it yet, and I think that Boog does a pretty good job of calling it, so you'll be able to imagine it. But 2 outs, runner on second. Javy's up to bat. He hits a grounder to the third baseman and looks like a pretty routine out, except the throw pulls the first baseman off. And so he comes to tag Javy in catching the throw, and Javy goes back down the first baseline towards home plate.
I've got it queued
and for
up.
some reason, first baseman chases him.
Instead of just stepping on the bag. I would have moonwalked to the bag in cleats just to prove a point, but here we go.
Yep.
Baez hits it on the ground to third. Gonzalez. This is so good. Oh my goodness! Wow! You got to be kidding me! You've got to be kidding me! They stole a run. You have got to be kidding me, Javy Baez. Keep going. Go. Think you're invisible. El Mago indeed.
Really is incredible. It's probably the 8th time I've rewatched that, and what's funny about it is, so there was a runner on third, right? It was a ground ball, runner on third, and Baez.
No, he was on second.
He's on second. Okay, that's even better. I thought he was on third. Yeah. So he's on second base, and Baez hits a ground ball, and decides to get in a rundown between home and first, which we know doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to happen. I mean, so the first baseman's chasing him back to home plate to tag him, or I guess, or whatever. 2 outs, folks. All they need to do is get the out at first. That run doesn't count. The run ends up crossing the plate. A weak throw to the catcher who didn't catch it. It's rolling. He caught it, but by the time Baez sprints for first base, nobody's there, and he beats the second baseman there. Throw gets by the second baseman. Baez ends up on second base. I mean, you would expect to see that shit in a high school game or a junior varsity baseball game where they completely forget the rules. And I mean, how is every coach in that dugout not pointing, screaming, veins popping out of their neck? Clint Hurdle would have went out there and maybe he would have punched him with one of his cheek muscles because those things were so big. Just stepping out of the dugout, literally running on the grass and going, step on first. It's all you got to do. You have one job.
Even after the runner scored. And that was the point
exactly.
I was making to my son. My son, he's 8 years old. He barely understands the rules, the basic rules to actually play the game, much less nuances like this. But he's like, Dad, what the heck happened there? Like, he was completely confused, and I get it. And that's it. You're right, Ron. I wouldn't even expect it in a junior varsity game. I would expect to see that in one of my son's Little League games.
Exactly.
Right? Because nobody knows the rules.
And if he would have tagged him, Pete, that run does count.
He's out.
Why the hell were you chasing him?
That run did not count until Javy touched first base.
Exactly.
They had multiple opportunities to get out of that inning.
If they tag a guy out, that's not the same as an auto out at first base, is it? If you would have tagged him?
Sure it is. Because it's a force. Yeah, think about it.
I don't know if it's considered a force if you tag him or not.
Yeah,
I know it is on the. I know the other bases apply that way, but like if instead of stepping on second base for the third out, if you elect to tag the guy and a run crosses the plate, that run counts. So I wasn't sure how that applied to first base. If he would have ran Javy down and tagged him after the guy slid across the plate, I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. Maybe somebody out there can educate us. Does that run count if he chooses to tag him rather than just the force out at first? I don't know. I don't know for sure how that works.
I don't think so because it's the batter, right? Because if
tag the guy in a run crosses the plate, that run
is on third, right? And he sprints home and makes it to home plate before the throw pulls first baseman off, and the first baseman still tags Javy. That's still the end of the inning. The run's not going to count.
Yeah, you're probably right.
So it's not just tagging it. So yeah, they had multiple opportunities to get out of that, right?
But still,
if the first baseman
you never run into that scenario, even as a
Javy.
player. But as a player, you always know all I have to do is step on first. Everything's over. I don't care if 8 guys cross the plate. None of them count.
Exactly. Like the minute Javy started to run away from him, he sort of just turned around and ran back. And
I would have just walked back.
Why? That was all about ego. Right?
It was all. I think it was also all about confusion. Not sure how many outs there are. Not paying attention because you're playing on the Pirates. Nobody's in the stands, even though you've opened up capacity. It still looks like you've got. If I were the Pirates, I'd just say, no, we're going to remain 25% all year. You know that's all that's going to show up anyway.
That way they can report sellouts for 81 games.
That's right. And so I can imagine Pete. I don't know so much about ego. It's here's the thing. I didn't even know if Baez really knew he could do that or not. You know how he is, man. He's not thinking. He's not hardcore on any rules. He thought maybe he could get in a rundown and delay to get the run home, not thinking, all that guy has to do is step on first. But he caught a first baseman half-assed knowing what's going on in the moment, not paying attention to the outs, the situation, anything, had a complete brain fart and really just pushed the plunger down on that dynamite right there.
That you're absolutely right. There was no thought for that for Javy. That was pure instinct. And those plays that especially his base running plays, when we refer to them as El Mago plays, that is not him thinking. That is pure instinct.
But that's been all the social media posts. This is El Mago magician. No, this was 2 players caught up, not really sure what to do.
Yep. And that's him all the time. On every single one of those plays, he's not thinking consciously, oh, I'm going to take the extra base because it's going to put pressure on the right fielder to make the play. All he's thinking is something is tingling, right? Like his Spidey senses are tingling.
That's right.
He's just going to go.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what he's doing. He just goes and it works out for him.
No, just like my dog. I mean, she's a walking stomach. She doesn't think about it. It looks like food. I think it might be food. I'm just going to swallow it. I don't care if it's moving or not.
The best comment in that whole sequence, and I saw you laugh as it was playing, was from Jim DeShays. You're invisible. Right? Because you know what would have happened. If he would have gone for third at the end of that play, somehow he would have ended up safe. The third baseman would have dropped the catch on the ball, whatever it was. Like the ball would have squirted out of his glove, and Javy would have ended up.
Or it's just a circus clown rundown between second and third that lasts way longer than what a high school coach would allow. Right. I mean, at this point, if I were the Pirates manager, I would have stormed out on the field, got him if they would have got him in a rundown between second and third, I would have stormed out in the field, and as soon as the throw went to the third baseman, I would have slapped the ball out of his glove and said, "No, Javy, go ahead and take it because they don't want to play today. Go ahead, just keep going." I would have held on to the ball. And I'll tell you this story because this actually happened. This actually happened in I think my freshman year of high school. We had a guy. He didn't play often, but he got into a few games and missed a steal sign. He was on first base, missed a steal sign like 2 or 3 times. And this coach I had, the best coach I've had in any sport, any age, any league, because he didn't care. He didn't care who your parents were. He didn't care how popular you were. If you were the player that needed to be out there, that showed up to practice, that worked hard, he was going to play you. In his famous quote, I remember this. Like, he was a teacher too. So he said, "Hey, look, I can hate your guts and give you an A. Love you to death and give you an F." That's how he was, and he was like that in sports too. Wonderful guy, Vietnam veteran, Army drill sergeant. I mean, he was pretty hardcore. Anyway, the runner on first missed the steal sign like twice, and as the pitcher's looking on the third pitch, as the pitcher's looking in to get the signs from the catcher, he just tells the guy, "Hey, steal second damn base!" Just yells at him since he missed the signs. He just yelled at him to do it, and so he had to steal. He just took off, and of course got picked. I mean, got him in a quick rundown and got him. But yeah, that was my. I guess that's the way I relate to this. If your team's screwing up that bad, I just throw them out in the field. I take the ball away from them, and I just tell the Cubs runner, go all the way home. I'm not sure if that's doable, but it would be fun.
That's actually what looked like happened in last night's game with Craig Kimbrell. They had a guy on second base, and they clearly didn't want him there. They were having problems with the signs or whatever. And Kimbrell intentionally balked to get the run over to third. And like everybody was confused. He looked at the home plate umpire, and it was almost like he was like, "I just balked there. Tell him to go to third."
Yeah, it's you can understand that too. I liked, and this is why I didn't end up playing professionally on any level. I know that the few times they did get desperate and call me in to pitch, I didn't like having guys on base because I liked the windup. I hated stretching. I was relieved sometimes when the bases got cleared. Like, good. Now I can go back to the windup. I think we've got somebody coming.
Do we? The interrupter?
You know it.
Oh, hey.
You know it.
All right. Well, listen. Coming in, joining us, and true to his usual form.
Yep.
He's on a different device.
Understand, in his last week in retail, permanent occasional guest host Elliott Dewey. Elliott, how you doing, buddy? What's the story?
So here's the story. Let me get in some light.
My God.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Hey, before you get started, is CJ there with you?
No.
I would hope so. With all this noise,
no zombies here.
Okay.
Keep your head on a swivel.
I don't know if I believe that.
Last Sunday, I got a job opportunity from actually a family member to become a project engineer for a construction company. And it was an offer I couldn't refuse. And so now I will have my Monday through Fridays, 8 to 4:30s, 8 to 5s.
Oh wow!
No more weekends.
Back to your old life, right? That Monday through Friday bankers hours kind of thing. Yeah,
exactly. So, and on my way home, I got a phone call that I need to go to my new boss's house.
So Elliott, are you telling us that? Elliott, is this a real job or is it a project engineer, and that there's going to be a lot of golfing and disposal of dead bodies and stuff like that?
This is a real job where I am going to have a lot to learn and put the mind at work. So, yeah, this will be a for real job. This is not a fake job.
Is this going to take away from your ability to listen to sports or watch sports or anything like that? It's going to be all consuming where you're going to be so exhausted.
Just during the day, I will have a similar Ron and Pete job.
Now, a follow-up question on this, Elliott. Is this the kind of job that is going to interfere with your ability to show up late for shows, to crack open beers in the middle of your introduction, and to have annoying background hums during the show when you're not speaking?
Elliott, before you answer that, what's disappointing? What's disappointing to me? You can't hear me.
It will not affect my beer crackness. It'll not affect my background noise. I will continue to have that.
Okay,
Elliott, I'm really hoping that doesn't prove true and that you will continue to be late for the show.
Pete, I'm disappointed because he's standing outside of a house right now, and I halfway expect him to be standing right by the AC units that are just humming right now.
No, that's the wind.
Okay.
So, or it could be the train on the tracks that is just sitting over there where I hear the engines humming. So
okay.
Well, you don't need to get too close to that, to add more background noise, Elliott, because it could suddenly power up, and then we would have a real problem on our hands.
Exactly.
Elliott, speaking of, just wondering, You worked today, correct?
I did.
Did you happen to catch the play?
Oh, I saw it. And what the fuck were the Pirates thinking? I mean, step on first, you dumbass. That's all you had to do.
You had one job.
You did have one
job. Well, you don't have to tag them. Step on the base. There's a reason why they are just absolutely awful. I mean, what are you thinking? You let him go all the way down to home plate. You let him call the play safe, and then you let him get to first and then second.
Oh my God, I absolutely missed that, Elliott. You're right. Not only did he cause that whole play, but Javi also was the backup home plate umpire.
Yes.
As I said to Ron, the best part of that whole sequence was Jim DeShay's comment. You're invisible. Keep going. Like, he's right.
Oh, yeah, the third. Yeah.
I was saying, if he had gone to third, something would have happened. And he would have been safe.
Yeah. So, beautiful. Yeah, that play doesn't. I mean, Baez is a magician. We all know this.
Oh, no. That's not our theory we made a little while ago.
The Pirates are.
Well, I think it's a combination of the two. And I was saying this to Ron before you jumped on. That there was nothing conscious about that play on Javi's part, right? And all the El Mago plays on the bases, there's nothing conscious about those. He's not thinking that if I do this, they're going to do that. He's reacting,
just trying to make something happen.
I don't think it's even that. I think he's got spidey senses that tingle, and he just something tells him that he needs to run, and so he runs, and just things happen on the bases. There's no consciousness to it. There's no thought. He just goes. He trusts his instincts, and somehow the runner scores from second.
We've seen it the last 4 or 5 years where we've seen players get nervous with him moving on the bases, and he forces them to make mistakes. So.
Well, listen, Elliott, we don't want to interrupt your final job interview.
No
so
kidding.
You go enjoy those White Claws. And we'll look forward to having you with us again in place next week.
Thanks, guys.
And we'll be celebrating the start of your new job by this time next week, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I start on the 1st.
What are we going to do to do that? How are we going to do that? Should we plan it right now, or should we do it offline?
I think we can do it offline. We can have something planned for next week's show. And we also
I'll get those extra tall White Claws.
Ooh, the tall boys. You put them in your cargo shorts.
Exactly.
And the other thing we get to discuss offline, and I think we really do need to figure it out in the next couple of weeks. In fact, I'm going to propose that it happens next weekend. I think it's definitely time for the Braden Elliott showdown on MLB The Show.
Oh, yeah. I'm 100% with you on that. We do need to call that one. I'll try to stay clean. It's over for that. Probably not, but I'll try.
We can probably schedule it for like a Saturday or a Sunday. We'll do a show, and then have the live versus match. So
I'm gonna see if I can get our
clean teams, Braden. We're not doing any of this trading Bryce Harper to the freaking Dodgers.
Good luck with that.
It's going to be a clean team.
Yeah, good luck with that. I think that I would like to almost do a post-game show too. So I'm going to reach out to a couple guys, maybe people with a sense of humor. I don't know. Maybe I'll hit up Kyle and see if he wants to call post-game on this one, or even be the third commentator. I think he'd be a great addition to a broadcast like that. Or
got something.
Maybe we bring in a former player, Mark Littell, and see if he can contribute to that. I think that would be
that'd be great.
We could have a 3-man booth. I'll take the play-by-play. Ron, you can take most of the analysis, and Mark can jump in with.
I think you got Mark for analysis. I think you got a player for analysis on that. I don't.
There we go.
Maybe
Mark can be the analysis. You can be the on-field reporter. You can be Ken Rosenthal. You just kneel down the whole game.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Ken Rosenthal of the Shire.
Yeah.
All right, Elliott, get on with your life tonight. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks. Appreciate it, guys.
All right. See ya.
Congratulations, Z.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Happy for him, man. Let's see how much noise he makes as he hangs up.
Yep.
How did he get in the house that quick?
You absolutely have to go back and you have to watch that because on Elliott's end, it was absolutely 100% worth it.
Yeah, it was. And of course, I mean, all he's doing is pressing a button to get on. I don't know how the hell he was making that much noise when he got on. I really don't. And my son does the same thing. Like when you're on an iPhone sometimes, if anything is scraping or rubbing on the bottom of it, it sounds like you're in a hurricane. And many times when
maybe Elliott is kind of like Pigpen, right? No matter how many showers and baths Pigpen took in Charlie Brown, like within an instant, he was surrounded by his.
Except with Elliott, it's noise.
Yeah, with Elliott, it's noise.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, it's just noise.
100%. He goes into a sound booth, and it's deafening. All the baffling in the world won't help.
Nope. All the sound foam, everything.
You can run a white noise wave underneath Elliott, and you're still going to have interference.
Yeah. And even if it's not his fault, there's going to be noise in the background. So,
of course.
All right, man.
Well, Ron, anything else you think we need to cover?
I'm likely missing something on the Star Wars front that I'm not thinking on the top of my head, but I think we covered like the kind of the big thing last week. There was.
Yeah, we did. Last week's episode of the Bad Batch was really good, but I feel like we're missing out without Elliott here to discuss it. So maybe we'll hold off.
Yeah, we probably should hold off.
Episodes 5 and 6 together.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Well, I mean, and last one was okay, but it wasn't like it was one of those that you felt at the end of it like, please get on with the plot.
See, I really liked this past week's episode. So this might be a good one for the three of us to break down.
Yeah, I mean, it might be good.
I'll have to watch it again to refresh my memory.
Just lump them together. Yeah.
The boy and I came out of this past week's episode jazzed about this one. So
yeah.
But hey, we got a new one dropping in 4 hours? So
4 hours. I am not going to stay up for it. I'll catch it. I'll catch it at some point tomorrow.
And speaking of Star Wars, we're only 2 weeks away from. Well, I doubt that I'm going to be broadcasting, but 2 weeks away from the boy and I landing at Galaxy's Edge. So,
And they have the Resistance ride there up now, and that wasn't up and running when I was there.
Yep. I think we may have to have some TOR reviews of Galaxy's Edge at 50% capacity.
No matter what the lines are, if you can take the fast pass into a few things, it's worth it. Like you really got to pick them though.
They've disabled the fast pass. Disney's not offering it anymore, and I think they're going to get rid of it entirely.
Oh man, that was kind of nice. And we had relatives. See, my wife has relatives in Florida, so they had all the inroads and the know-how to navigate these kinds of things. It was still a 45-minute wait. I took the two boys to the Millennium Falcon ride, which was interesting, but worth it. Definitely worth it. So you guys are going to have a great time.
Yeah, we definitely are. So if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your friends to subscribe. We're available on Facebook, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. Also, be sure to check out the other Gateway City Sports Network podcasts, including the Derek King Sports Show every Wednesday at 9 a.m. on Facebook Live, 2 for 3 with Moose Michaels, and Turn in 2 with Dylan Dinger and Tito Rivera. Send us an email at the show at teamarivalspodcast.com. And if you want to annoy Ron, you can hit him up on Twitter at
TOR_Ron75.
Beautiful. Well, as we close the night out, Cardinals are now up 4-0. So it looks like the Cubs are going to be a half game back, the same place that they started at the beginning of the day. But things are tight as we head into Memorial Day weekend. And I'm sure that there'll continue to be a shakeup in the next 7 days. We look forward to having you guys back to join us. Have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. We'll talk some Star Wars too when we get back, and we can celebrate. Everybody, we'll tell you what you should have ready to open on Thursday night as we celebrate the next chapter in Elliott's career.
And
so, on behalf, go ahead.
No, and don't be discouraged by the Cardinals being up 4-0. I mean, the Cubs can make a quick trade, send him to Arizona, and he could just fuck up the Cardinals defense on the infield as well. I mean, so anything can happen, Pete.
I won't rule it out. On behalf of Ron and Elliott, I want to thank you guys for joining us tonight. Have a great week. This has been the Team of Rivals podcast. Love you all.